Okay, welcome to the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners meeting. This is 1 p.m. Wednesday, February 26th, 2025. First item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So at this time is citizen input. We have a few requests to speak. Sarah Ravasio. Yeah, please join us up front. Yep. And then following will be Deborah. So you can take another mic next to her. Just a little introduction and welcome, neighbor. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Sarah Provencio. I'm also known as Sarah Cumming, owner and veterinarian at Riverside Animal Hospital. I reside at 2431 Northwest Morningwood Way. Thank you for your time today. I am here because our community faces a growing concern, one that I know we all share, which is ensuring that pedestrian and cyclist safety improvements do not come at the cost of overall community safety. While we support the idea of safer streets for all users, we must consider the unintended consequences of the current direction our city council is taking, particularly regarding the implementation of road diets. The changes being made to our roadways, narrowing lanes, reducing vehicle capacity, and introducing additional barriers pose a real threat to the efficiency of emergency response. Fire, police, and medical responders rely on the ability to navigate swiftly through town, and any unnecessary obstacles could delay life-saving assistance. When minutes matter, we cannot afford to compromise their ability to reach those in need. Additionally, our region faces significant wildfire risks. With limited evacuation routes, we must prioritize mobility and access for all residents in case of emergency. Constricting major roadways with lane reductions or bottlenecks could lead to dangerous delays in the event of an evacuation. We have seen the tragic consequences in other communities that failed to plan adequately for fast-moving wildfires, and we must learn from those lessons. Beyond safety concerns, these road changes are also harming the small businesses of Bend. Pinch points and restricted access makes it harder for customers to reach local shops, impacting their revenue and overall viability. We cannot afford to hurt our local economy in the name of infrastructure changes that create more problems than they solve. There are ways to improve pedestrian and cyclist safety without restricting critical access for emergency vehicles, endangering our community's ability to evacuate, or hurting our small businesses. We need a balanced approach, one that enhances safety for all, not just a few. I respectfully request that you encourage City Council to reassess their approach and ensure that efforts to enhance pedestrian cyclist safety do not come at the expense of broader community well-being, including emergency response efficiency, evacuation preparedness, and economic vitality. Let's work together to create a transportation plan that truly serves the needs of everyone in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Debbie Putnam, and thank you for letting me speak today. I live at 1514 Northwest 3rd Street in Bend and work at 25 Northwest Olney Avenue. I'm part of an owner of Riverside Animal Hospital. We have talked to Bend City Council and to the city engineers for the past 18 months, giving input on the Wall Only Bike project. We support the project as a whole, but have respectfully requested that they place a gap in the median in front of our access road to Olney Avenue, allowing our customers to be able to reach us easily from the east. Riverside is a small business of 30 employees. We are one of a handful of veterinary clinics in Bend that have not sold to corporation. The Ark, Alpine, Blue Sky, Brookswood, Central Oregon Animal Hospital, La Paz, Westside have all done so by now. I do not have to tell you, it is very difficult for a small business to compete against big businesses. We offer employees full health benefits, retirement accounts. Every other year, we send an outstanding employee to Hawaii, which is voted on by their peers. We offer scholarships to our technicians so they can become licensed. We have 3 full-time associates that all left corporate practices and took a substantial decrease in pay in order to come work for us. We just cannot compete. Corporations have economy of sale. In veterinary medicine, they pay less for drugs, less for lab services, less for food that then they sell at higher costs to their clients. Corporations dictate how a provider will practice, which is less thoughtful and individualized. I do not have to tell you the difference between corporate medicine and private medicine. We're seeing it in the human healthcare as well. Riverside is now faced with losing access to our building from the east on Only Avenue. We will lose clients if this happens. We're seeing proof of this already. A gentleman spoke at the city council, said he will leave Riverside if his ability to reach us is closed from the east. Since the start of this project, we've seen a 12% reduction in our gross income. It's 3.5 weeks in. While this construction is temporary, permanent loss of access to our facility from the east will have long-lasting effects. Only 35 of our clients come from the west side of Bend. While Deschutes County is not spearheading this project, you and your employees will also be affected by the loss of access from Only to Deschutes County building, and also an increase in traffic in your parking lot from our clients trying to reach our hospital. If supporting small business is important to you, we ask that you help Riverside and our mission to keep Access Road open for both our clients and your staff and visitors. Please contact Bend City Council in support of Riverside's request to not build a median, which will block access to Riverside and the county building from the east. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you both for your testimony.
Now, I saw that you did get a story on the news, which I thought was excellent. I actually, when they went to One Lane Each Way on Greenwood last summer, I asked them if they could please flip it so the parking on the north side could actually still have parking like the theater. And their business is down even prior to COVID. So it has really decimated that area. My intern did all kinds of work on that. We really tried to change the trajectory, and they were like, no, they wouldn't like flip it. And I heard your story and I thought about it. I thought like, oh my gosh, how are you going to like retrain your people to please come down Greenwood and then take a ride, whatever. Anyway, and the fact that you said only 35 of your people come from the east side or the west side.
West side.
Yes. So
It's,
yeah,
there's a
it's a tragedy, really. And so if, I don't know, I'm hoping maybe somebody will hear the story and realize that we still need that turn lane, because we have a lot of people that work in this building, and that turn lane is so advantageous for us, keeps us off of Wall Street.
One comment that the city council did make is that because of the narrowing of the bridge right there, they're not able to keep the turn lane. So, and they had told us that in the past. So all we've asked is for them to make a hole in the median so turn can still be made. The suggestion was that people could just go over the mounted median to get to us, which the police chief said, absolutely not, that's illegal, and we will cite them. And then the next suggestion was to go down to Wall Street, take a left, and then take a left onto Norton, which is over a double line, and then the start of the turn lane, and then another lane of traffic, and then the bike lane, and it's a right-hand turn only access. So it just like and then the third option is your parking lot. So it's hard, and we just hope that we could have a little bit of access there. So thank you.
No, I would hope that somebody would be listening and realize small businesses, it's hard enough in today's world. And we so appreciate having you here as a neighbor.
Thank you.
So yeah, love seeing the animals when we drive by.
Thanks a lot.
You have
One more.
made your case directly to the city council.
Thank you very much. Next, Judy Trigo. Welcome, Judy. She's a member of our budget committee here at Deschutes County.
Thank you. I'm not here about that. Judy Trago, 20604 Hummingbird Lane, Chair DeBone, County Commissioners. Thank you for listening today. I am a delegate for the Homeless Youth Civic Assembly that happened some time back. We spent about 5 days working to come up with recommendations for different agencies, for different governments, for different nonprofits And you have those recommendations in front of you. And one of the things that was interesting about that as assembly is that it was,
Actually it's on our agenda today.
yes, yes, it was bottom up, but he's going to choose when I speak. So
Well,
it's
so
okay.
yeah, no, I didn't connect that today. It is on our agenda today.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm like going,
But I'll be done in
about
2
it.
seconds.
Well, yeah, please do that. As I say, I didn't even
Yes.
connect that up. Sorry.
So, one of the things that was interesting is the recommendations came from a bottom-up approach. We actually listened to the kids who had gone through homelessness. Some have gotten out of it, some are still in it, but the recommendations actually came from them. And so one of the important things to me that came out of it, I mean, I write grants, I get grants, I give grants. And one of the things we heard, and that's been of concern to me for a very long time, is some of these grants are not flexible. As an example, one of the kids said, we can get food all day long. We don't need, food stamps. We don't need vouchers for food. We can find food all day long, but we might need gas cards. We might need help paying our car insurance so we can get to work. And so I would ask that as you consider recommendations, and I know you give grant fundings to a lot of social service organizations. So if those can be flexible, I think that's helpful not only for the agency, nonprofit organizations helping homeless youth, but it's helpful for the youth. And it really is based on their need, not on what some government agency says, okay, you can use it for this and this and this and this. And
We are the
this, and
government
that's it.
agency.
I know.
I know,
That's
but
why I'm
thank you
talking
for-
to you. So I think the more flexible those funds are, the better. And I'd appreciate any help or advocacy that the county can provide for the homeless youth civic assembly.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so as I say, the policy is items not on the agenda, a familiar face, and I was thinking about the other hot topics on the agenda, so you snuck that one in. Thank you. Anybody?
He's also the chair's.
Oh, yeah, but as I say, it wasn't my intention, yeah. It's all good. Anybody else online? Okay, thank you so much. At this time, next is the consent agenda.
So move the consent agenda?
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes. Okay.
I guess the one other thing I'd say is much appreciation to the folks who are willing to serve on the Deschutes River Mitigation and Enhancement Committee
Great, thank
and
you.
on the Public Health Advisory Board
And the dog control.
and the drug control.
I know, yeah. So thank you for the people mentioned in this consent agenda. Item number 8, audit committee bylaws. Good morning.
It's afternoon.
I
I know we're way out of sync. We're going to, remember, we were supposed to go to Lapine at 5. Yes. Another day.
Thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Tate, the County Internal Auditor. I'm just here with some bylaws that the Audit Committee put together. They're passing it on to you for your approval. There's not, most of what's in here is actually already in code. And so the bylaws reference code for most sections. It's additional information on officers, subcommittees, meeting procedures, and conflict of interest. The bylaws were adopted unanimously by the committee.
So this is a new work product, a new thing, because I do know the code. And we have reviewed the code over the years.
Yep, and that's because I think the committee just felt like they needed a little more documentation. They've grown to the point where they wanted some more formality, but it's information that doesn't necessarily need to be in code.
Okay. And then, yeah, substantively, it's a little bit discussions about budget, which we just went through recently, but also just the process of having a meeting and then voting members. And then if somebody doesn't show up for a couple of unexcused absences, so it kind of defines that.
Yeah, I
Lay
think
of
the
the
language
land.
is pretty standard.
Yep. So the one item that kind of jumped out to me is member removal though. So, yeah, I mean, so these would be a board appointment. And if there's so this is the page 5 of 7. It mentioned 2/3 majority vote to remove somebody, but that, this is a board appointment here. Please participate in the audit committee. And if the majority of the audit committee is like, you're out of here, it could get an interesting dynamic there, so just acknowledging that. I don't know if that's for discussion or not.
I mean, I think it's really important that people that we appoint to the audit committee or any committee can work with the others. And, I wouldn't want it to be a simple majority, but a 2/3 majority to essentially say, it is very difficult to work with you, I think is a reasonable threshold for the committee itself to say that to someone.
As I say, I'm not proposing a change per se. I'm just acknowledging that it could be a board appointment that could happen, so. Any other questions or thoughts?
No, I appreciate the professionalism to what we're adding, and currently everyone serving on the group is right there at the meeting, fully engaged, and I think the new format is really working out well. So thank you for that.
So this is, presented for possible approval.
I'm on the committee, so I don't know if I should make the motion or not.
I can move approval of board signature of the Deschutes County Audit Committee bylaws.
And I'll second the motion.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Is there kind of a review cycle expected on this? Because I know every other year for the code itself.
We don't have a formal review anticipated, but you're right, there's a review of the code itself, so that might be a good time to do it.
Either do it together or alternating years, just thought. Okay, seeing no other discussion, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Adair,
Yes,
and Chair will vote yes. Thank you so much. Great to see you.
thanks, Elizabeth.
Item number 9, consideration of first and second reading of ordinance approving clear and objective housing text amendments.
Yeah, good afternoon, commissioners. For the record, Kyle Collins, Associate Planner. Like your memo today says, here for consideration of first and second reading of the ordinance, which would adopt the first package of these clear and objective housing amendments. The board had a public hearing on this matter 2 weeks ago, as well as held deliberations on that same date, ultimately recommending approval of the proposed package. Needed some time behind the scenes to actually get all this together in a formal ordinance and make sure all the I's were dotted, T's were crossed, things of that nature. We are recommending adoption by emergency of this particular package. That's due to a few different reasons. The first is we are, excuse me, under a time crunch, as noted in the state statute that's kind of set off this entire clear and objective package. We have until July 1st of this year, ultimately, to adopt as many clear and objective amendments to our current development code associated with housing. After that July 1st date, anything that is still discretionary, any existing discretionary language still existing in our code could ultimately be appealed by applicants and ignored, so to speak. The second big reason is we have several of these packages already in the pipeline, ready for review by the Planning Commission and then ultimately the board. Some of those are already kind of getting set up. And so we're running into a little bit of a sequencing issue where we kind of need this first big package that deals, again, with definitions and sort of our foundational pieces in place in order for these next packages to build off that language till it gets adopted. So proposing first and second reading today, adoption by emergency with a 30-day effective date. That would be March 28th when this would actually come online. That 30 days is intended to give us a little bit of time to train staff across the street, as well as our regulars, people in the development community, so they know that these changes are coming online. And once that March 28th date hits, that everybody is clear on what the standards are for new housing development moving forward. With that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
I have a technical question. Can we make one motion then for first and second, or do we have to make them separately?
Do one motion for the first and second reading.
Okay.
We did have a public hearing on the matter. We closed, we did deliberation. So we kind of got right up to this point, and now the package is mature for this proposal.
Correct.
And we've had work sessions even before that, so
Mhm.
we're pretty familiar with this bundle. With that, I would go ahead and move approval of first and second reading of ordinance number 2025-002 by title only.
And I'll second the motion.
Do you support emergency effective within 30 days? That'd be
Is that a second motion?
With the adoption motion.
So, okay, so just very good. Okay. So it's been moved and seconded for first and second reading. Got it. Just that section of it. Any other discussion? Commissioner Chang, calling for the vote.
Yes.
Commissioner Dare
Yes.
and Chair will vote yes. So this is first reading ordinance number 2025-002, an ordinance amending Deschutes County Code Title 18 zoning ordinance and Title 19 Bend Urban Area Zoning Ordinance to incorporate clear and objective housing standards in compliance with state law and declaring an emergency. This is second reading. Ordinance number 2025-002, an ordinance amending Deschutes County Code Title 18 zoning ordinance and Title 19 Bend Urban Area Zoning Ordinance to incorporate clear and objective housing standards in compliance with state law and declaring an emergency.
Then I'll move adoption of ordinance number 2025-002 by emergency with an effective date of 30 days after adoption, which I believe Kyle said was March 28, 2025.
Second. Okay, any other discussion? So I'm glad to support this, knowing that you won't even need to come back for the second time for this same package. And then this will be a building block for the future also.
Absolutely.
With that, calling for the vote, Commissioner Dare
Yes.
and Commissioner Chang. Yes. And Chair will vote yes.
Thank you.
Here we
very much.
go. Step one.
Yeah, we'll be back with others in the next few months.
Yep, thank you. Item number 10, discussion and possible action on recommendations of Deschutes County Civic Assembly and Youth Homelessness.
Good day, commissioners. From now on, I'll just say good day. That way I don't
There you go, exactly.
before or afternoon.
Morning. Good afternoon.
For the record, I'm Eric Kropp, Deputy County Administrator. Josh Burgess from the Civic Assembly was scheduled to join me this afternoon, but he called me this morning and he's under the weather, so he's not able to join me.
You might be watching, I bet.
Might be watching. As quick background, the board is familiar with this topic because there was a presentation in early January. Just for the public background, a civic assembly was created and a cross-section of Deschutes County residents were selected randomly. There were 30 participants and they spent 30 hours learning about a topic and developing recommendations. The topic they selected was youth homelessness. The Civic Assembly met for a couple of days, learned from various stakeholders and experts on the topic. They had discussions and they came back with 22 recommendations. Those were presented to the board in early January. After that presentation, the board asked staff to bring back the topic so that the commissioners could discuss the county's role in the 22 recommendations. In the board packet are those 22 recommendations. If you read them, you'll notice that the numbers, there's actually 23. There's 23 recommendations, but one number was skipped. So that's why I refer to it as 22 recommendations. But the board packet includes the full recommendations from the assembly. Then there's a document that county staff put together called the county's role in these recommendations. And that document has each of the recommendations. There's a column that the Civic Assembly put together that suggested for the county's role in each of those recommendations. And then the last column is the county staff's proposal for the county's role in these recommendations. Some of these recommendations are directly related to county services or things that the county is currently doing. Other recommendations relate to other entities or other governments. So those that don't directly relate to county services are items that county staff either put the county's role as advocacy or not applicable. That's just a starting point for board discussion. Of course, the board can decide to advocate on any topic. It's really up to the board to decide. But in general, the county staff starting point was to look for recommendations that are directly related to a county role or responsibility. And then the last document in the board packet is a draft letter from the board back to the Civic Assembly that details recommendations that the county is proposing to take a role in. And again, this is just a starting point for board discussion. It's ultimately up to the board to decide. So I'll turn it back over to the board chair to decide how to proceed on the discussion. I'm happy to walk the board through each of the recommendations, but I would like to turn it back to the board at this point.
So just for information, the draft letter was just a concept like, well, how about we look at what an end product might look like? Because this can change the content of it. And then, so now this is the full package as a starting point. So words could change, but that's how we came up with that letter specifically. The recommendations are the few pages right before that. What jumps out at me, just my note that I had on here was item number 20, reform local housing policy to serve local community members and foster sustainable growth for all. And then item number 12 says create another civic assembly dedicated to the housing affordability crisis. So the economy, having a job, being able to put food on your table, be able to be part of the economy, have a paycheck, and paying for housing is the crux of all this, which is always so interesting to think about. So just sharing, advocacy basically is where we're at, and probably both of those, no matter which way you cut it. So any other thoughts? Action to be taken?
Well, actually, I think we should really promote the CASA program here in Central Oregon. I know that normally we maybe have 85% of the kids that are in the foster care program with a CASA, but that is so critical to have someone actually be with you. And especially in today's world, we need to have CASA back in and have them do a presentation. I know that they do training, and I think they've had some recent advertisements, I believe, and to have, if we could get more CASAs stepping up to help those kids, I think that would be at least something that we can promote. Another thing, we did hear about the bus system.
I was said, do you want to put that on the letter, and would it fit
Yeah.
into one of these
Well,
recommendations? Because that's,
well, it is.
you know,
It's yeah, it's like, what is it? It's doing more. It was item number 1, and I'm going like, oh my gosh, if we could help CASA with our support, I think it
it's
would.
an advocacy effort. but
Yes.
It's really volunteers that sign up
Right.
to be CASAs.
Yes, it is a tremendous commitment by people, but the difference they make in somebody's life, it's just like the Boys and Girls Club when they can connect with
Yeah.
and be role models and everything. But the CASA kids, especially the ones that really need someone to be protecting them and defending them and taking them through the system that
Yep.
they're in.
Well, I
So-
really like
and
that.
that's like number
That-
1.
Yeah, that's advocacy and it's action on the advocacy.
Right. And that's goes with 1 and 3. So anyway,
Might be closer related to 3 because 1 talks about 18-year-olds and CASAs for youth under 18.
so when they're 18, they lose their advocate.
I believe so.
But promoting it starting younger because it
Yeah.
I don't know if they keep going with them. But,
relationship.
I mean,
Yeah.
CASAs for
So that's number 3 though.
Okay.
Very appropriate under item number. One of the questions I had about JBAR-J was I was trying to recall whether JBAR-J is one of our service partner organizations, and we could ask the same thing about CASA, because if we are making annual direct investments in CASA, then that's again taking it beyond advocacy to action. So by supporting CASA directly, we are playing a role in item number 3.
And then
The
item
question
number,
about JBAR-J, I did look it up in the county's financial system, and they are a service partner with the county. I believe they get $15,000 annually from the county, or at least that was a couple of years ago. And then also we have a couple departments that work closely with them, including health services, purchases youth beds from JBAR-J. And also I think they received some community justice grants through the JR, the
and they
Justice
just
Reinvestment.
got like almost $1 million through the federal government, a grant program too. JBAR-J did. So, they clearly are part of our community. And if you haven't been to their horse show in July, it's their fundraiser and it's on the grass.
There you go.
Yeah,
Attend the
Wardham.
first show.
Well, it's it's really a special event and the kids are there helping. And, you know, it's a Class A horse show that they put on and they're there.
But
So
that
it's great.
shows you how everything kind of is naturally connected. We should maybe focus on, changing priorities a little bit in what we're doing, but it already is very much connected.
I
And-
could
So
amend the
essentially,
board.
that's something, I mean, when we look at these recommendations and what are we actually doing, it's something we can take credit for is our close relationship with JBarJ. And, we can kind of commit to continued investment, in a very, a critical service partner, in the community, and, voice support for the investments that we're already making.
By putting it on this letter, giving it back to there, they'll say, oh yeah, because sometimes you hear these things, but you don't understand, oh yeah, that is a policy choice. And we do make a policy choice to support each year. So it's a good feedback loop to point out some of these things.
Sure, I'd be happy to add that to the draft letter.
Yeah, I mean, the recommendation is to dedicate funding to partner with JBarJ, and we're, we can basically say we are doing that and we commit to continue doing that. And
Well, we
and
just,
the relationship goes even further. There was a number of things that Commissioner Danner mentioned, and then, we're providing a bunch of space at almost no cost over at the juvenile justice building, for JBarJ's use in their program. So the relationship is very close. And
Yeah, and I think that's another good thing to point out, even though that's not money going from the county to JBarJ, it's the county providing the facility to provide it, so JBarJ can provide an important service to youth.
yeah, so cash and in-kind services and facility.
and perhaps promoting their fundraiser in the summer that's for their Grand Prix jumping. It's really, I know because of our treasurer, Mr. Kuhn, we just got to attend the St. Charles event. And maybe in July, you all will think about going to the Grand Prix at one of the weekends.
Do it together.
It's 2 weekends. And yes, I've been to the fair and the Grand Prix on the same day. So you can do it. It's really wonderful, their leadership. Item number 8, it says expand public transit in Deschutes County. Honestly, what we heard on Monday about our public transit, I think maybe we should look into that a little bit.
Well, and along those lines, I'm on the COIC board. Bob Townsend has joined COIC as the transportation director for the transit system. And there's basically a very exciting kind of window going to happen in the next 10 or 12 months where it will transition to a little bit more of a premier facility. We're getting some new buses in, and just the culture of how the system is used. So as I say, maybe it's just pointing to the fact that COIC is doing this and there's plans, getting pretty concrete about what's going to happen in the next few months, referring to bus stops, route optimization. One of the big things is charging, just like charging a fair price, a minimal fair price to get on the bus, which is going to change that culture. Instead of being able to get on just to get out of the weather, there'll be a reason to get on. So some of that stuff is policy discussions that are happening.
So that is something that the county is part of COIC, and we can say that
Yep.
COIC is taking the lead on. It's not necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily call that an action role for us, because really all the action is happening over at COIC, but certainly advocacy, education.
Well, the other thing, and it's
It's a statement.
in the draft letter, that it's the board that adopts the statewide transportation improvement fund for Deschutes County. So that's a current county role.
Well, I mean, we're basically functioning as a pass through. I mean, I wouldn't want to overstate, how well, I wouldn't want to overstate our role in providing public transportation, but that's a good detail to include. If we could, I just wanted to circle back to CASA and item 3, because the reason I brought up JBarJ was because I asked whether they were a funded service partner or, a special projects grantee or not. And I would love to know the same about CASA.
They are.
Okay, so I mean, we can we can claim action on item number, recommendation number 3 then as well.
Yeah, and CASA used to be housed in the Mike Meyer building, and then we charged below market rate. They ended up moving out because they needed more space that the county was not able to provide. But as the board knows, we have a long-standing relationship with CASA.
But I just feel that it's so needed that if we can promote it just a little bit more. I don't know when Heather Dion was here last, just giving her speech, and because we have so many new people in our community, if more people could hear about the program and, sign up, because
Yeah.
when you realize what the kids are dealing with, and if we could do that, I just think it would be great.
Well, as I say, even by putting in this letter, it's going to put
Right.
focus on it, which is exciting.
And I mean, before we start jumping around, I think it'd be great to talk about recommendation number 2, the central hub concept. And the youth assembly had, assigned this with, they had assigned Ben Park and Rec to be the lead on this. But as this draft letter appropriately points out, we do operate the drop, and this is a very important resource for homeless youth and youth who all otherwise have limited options on where to go and have a safe and supportive place. So while I think it's great for the Citizens Assembly to ask Ben Park and Rec to lead on this project, we have tremendous experience in serving this population and providing a safe and supportive place for people to essentially keep their life together through the drop. So that is, in my opinion, like really valuable experience for us to offer to this this concept. And so I think we could offer to not just advocate for this, but play an active role, have an action, which would be, kind of a supporting partner in planning and, planning, designing, maybe even operating such a facility. And if it's, if it ends up being a much better space than the drop, then we don't have to do the drop where we've been doing it. We could, kind of merge that operation into this center.
But the wonderful news is that we have it in Bend and in Redmond.
Yeah.
And it is in our brand new building in Redmond. We put a lot of dollars into that, and, maybe more people need to know about it. Maybe we need some new public service announcements on it. Or maybe not public service, but on TikTok or something where they're going to see it. Change the media, social media direction.
Well, I mean, there's all kinds of ideas around that. I'd be hesitant to dive into a big commitment in this unless we were going to take some time and figure out, are we really going to, advocacy and planning on paper is one thing, but you finished with maybe operate. So, I mean, there's some big commitments in there. We got to be.
I mean, the drop is a current operation.
Yeah, but
so, I mean, if there end up being, actual efficiencies or economies of scale in us.
Well, I'm just thinking of the words we're going to put down today. I understand where you're going. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I'm just going, I'm saying, when we look at our, at this table, I think we have a role beyond advocacy. There's at least a planning and support role.
So it's hard for me to understand. So we're going to define a place, when in doubt, go here. Is that, I mean, what is this? What's the definition of it?
Well, we're providing
At-risk teens.
We are currently
self-identifying to go to a place.
We're currently providing a safe and supportive place for a lot of teens in our community who otherwise don't have a safe and supportive place to kind of hold their life together. And if that is what this recommendation is about, we have both the experience in doing that to offer, and potentially this is an opportunity for us to provide that same service, maybe even more efficiently than we are able to right now with a partner.
The Park District.
If the Citizens Assembly is successful in persuading the Park and Rec District to move forward with such a facility, yeah, they would be the partner. I mean, yeah. Another option would be to say, hey, we're already doing the drop. Like, it's just another step for us to lead this, but I'd be hesitant to commit us to doing much more than we're already doing. I'm just trying to figure out how we can do what we're already doing smarter, more effectively, or more efficiently.
So Eric, do you know, is the drop in Redmond open 5 days a week, 4 days a week? I can't remember what
I
their
don't know
calendar is.
the hours. I mean,
Like
I'm
1 day a week, maybe
gonna
2.
look it up while we're chatting.
Maybe we need to expand those hours.
Again, that
I know isn't the Veterans Village or the Veterans Center there open like 1 or 2 days a month?
Yes, it's every other week I think it's on a Thursday. So the Veteran Service Office is twice a month.
As I say, I'm thinking about what would we put on a piece of paper today? And it started out with the drop, and we all acknowledge that that's there, and working toward something. As I say, I guess I was just responding to, and maybe we'll run it and with the intention of being more services for less cost or whatever it would be.
The drop in Redmond is Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 to 4:30. And
Tuesday and Thursday, or
Yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday?
a Tuesday and Thursday. So 2 days
Okay.
a week.
1 to 4:30?
Yes. And then in Bend, which is of course right here on the corner across the parking lot, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, different hours, but generally in the afternoon. And there's one, the latest it's open is 6:30 on Tuesday nights.
important hours, but not a huge number.
Also, early in my career, when I worked for the city of Phoenix, I worked in Parks and Rec and oversaw 6 teen centers, recreation and teen centers. And what a teen center,
Your name on the,
what a recreation center is and the drop are very different. Very different types of services, a little bit of overlap. I mean, I could see if Parks and Rec opened a recreation teen center, that we could provide them some inputs, but they're very different centers.
So I guess I would suggest that the bullet language that's here that describes the drop is great, and we could add to that. We can offer our experience in operating a facility like the drop to this central hub effort, and potentially, potentially play some kind of a partner role in, designing or operating such a facility without
as I say,
promising too
yeah.
much.
Well, as I say, just not coming to the conclusion before we get started. Is all I was thinking.
Mhm.
But yeah, absolutely, put some words in there.
All right, I wrote down what you just said, and I'll add it into an updated draft for the board to look at.
We talked about 3. 5 was another item that is in this draft letter. Or actually, that 5 is not in this draft letter, but 5 is an item that
Big investments.
that we have done a lot of work on. Where was that? I don't see it in the letter, but where was the language about the investments that we've made?
It's on the
and
front page.
and the code?
the staff
Yeah.
report.
Okay. Here's another place, to the extent that we invest in organizations like Mountain Star. That's more than just a facility investment that we made. I believe, anyways,
Land.
maybe someone could remind me whether Mountain Star is one of our, yes, is an annual service partner that we invest in as well. So there's a place where we are playing more than an advocacy role, where we're playing an ongoing action role in helping to provide childcare in the region. And the other childcare facilities that really came to mind when I read this recommendation number 5 was, the neighbor impact Head Start classrooms. And I don't think that neighbor impact is one of our annual service partner investments, but certainly we do a lot of work with neighbor impact, and we could make some kind of a pledge to try to figure out how to help neighbor impact do Head Start classrooms, or can sustain and maintain the Head Start classrooms that they offer in the region, which actually is maybe a very good very, very good commitment to make in this era where federal funding is so uncertain for so many things.
Well, the federal debt is now, the interest on it is over $1 trillion. So if anybody doesn't know that, it's really quite significant.
We need to think very carefully about what are good investments and what is just spending. But Head Start has demonstrated incredible return on investment in terms of helping kids get off to healthy, successful, productive lives, and not becoming, wards of the state in prison or other places.
I can agree with you, and yet I know some people in today's world that have actually made the decision. The husband works nights, the wife works days, and I really commend them. They know it's a short period, maybe 5 years before their children are in school, but some people have really made those decisions in order to be the party raising their kids. So I thank them.
So this is good content that we're adding to here. I don't know that we're going to come up with the final version of the letter today, but I mean, I support adding these topics. These are all good here. And
I hope that we'll at least take credit for our support that we're providing to Mountain Star, and on an ongoing basis, and also mention the investments we made with American Rescue Plan funds.
yeah,
Actually, you should put the millions in, and then the state came in on top of it. I think they gave another, $8 billion to Central Oregon for childcare. So we in this area have invested millions and millions of dollars in childcare. And can we still see it? I don't know.
and that's relative to number 5. So that's
Yeah.
another line item in there. And, Neighbor Impact as our community action agency, I do support just acknowledging who they are, what they're doing. I was on that Neighbor Impact board for many years. So, just mentioning it in there, if somebody's going to go down and say, oh, how did they respond here? There's advocacy all over that just by putting it in this letter.
Yeah, I mean, while investing $2 million in the food warehouse at Neighbor Impact is not a direct investment in their Head Start classrooms, it is a demonstration of our support of that organization.
Exactly. Foundational partner when they're in need or whatever.
Yeah.
Anything else?
3.5. Did we finish talking about public transit?
We did, but on number 7, actually, social media and posters, public awareness, that's what I had mentioned earlier, that maybe more of the public needs to know, about what we
What's that
have.
number? What were you?
Number 7, number 7, that's for social media engagement. So, I mean, maybe that's something, we do have a budget, don't we have a little budget for social media engagement?
I didn't flag it as a county role because the recommendation was very, very broad, and I was unclear on what the ask is. Obviously, the county has used a lot more social media advertisements and posts as we communicate with the public in general. But the recommendation number 7, it wasn't clear on what was to be communicated. So that's
Well,
what
I
we did.
think the fact that we have a brand new facility in Redmond, okay, maybe it's only open 2 afternoons a week, but I still think it would be nice to have that message out there.
Yeah, we're happy to talk to our communications staff and health services about using social media for advertising the drop. They may already be doing that, but
Or maybe, just take a moment and put a little PSA together or, just social media release one time, see what it looks like. And then, as I say, because this is all ongoing stuff. This is life itself here.
I mean, both item number 7 and recommendation number 14, which is about providing education on homelessness and human trafficking, starting early in the education process as the school districts deem appropriate and feasible. I can see ties between both recommendation 7 and recommendation 14 to our Healthy Schools program. If you think about the things that the Healthy Schools program is trying to prevent, substance abuse, suicidal ideation, bullying, teen pregnancy, these are all things that land kids in homelessness. I mean, these are all potentially contributing factors to homelessness. So the Healthy Schools program, by addressing, by trying to prevent these hardships, challenges in young people's lives, these are homelessness prevention programs. So I do think that under recommendation number 7, we could be doing a better job of promoting the Healthy Schools program. And number 14, human trafficking, human trafficking might be a 5th thing to add in terms of our prevention efforts for the Healthy Schools program. So that, and then, making that information readily available to kids and their families. So that we can avoid, we can reduce the number of young people who are experiencing these things. So, but also it's kind of we're already doing something and we could just do a little bit more to raise awareness of these services we're providing. And then tell the Citizens Assembly that, we're working on recommendation number 7 and recommendation number 14 as well.
Isn't Healthy Schools in Ben Lapine though? So we're talking about really promotion for the Redmond, what we're doing there.
But once again, it'd be advertising.
It's not either or. It's play up the Healthy Schools partnership, talk about the drop in Redmond, all of the above.
So I'm thinking, you have plenty to kind of work with on that. How about we move on, have a proposed update to the letter? It'll come back next Wednesday, just because we got other stuff today and we got to be in Lapine tonight.
Sure.
Yep, I'll be happy to.
And unless there's anything else substantive right now, because as I say, we can take another.
Now, don't forget, Judy mentioned gas cards. We haven't talked
So
about
flexible
that.
spending.
So yes, some kind of flexible opportunities. Yes.
Recommendation around funding flexibility was 19. And I think we could play an advocacy role there. The money isn't coming from us, so we don't have the ability to
Let's
give
say
more flexibility.
the most flexible funding you can have is a paycheck. So as I say, I mean, having a vibrant economy, introductory jobs, whatever, that whole concept. So
Okay.
instead of somebody giving some,
So back next Wednesday then? That sounds fine.
yeah, just because we could go on for quite a while.
Yep,
Yes,
I'll
we
be
could.
happy
I
to
would
bring a
just-
updated draft.
I would just say, Commissioner DeBonne mentioned recommendation number 12 about another civic assembly dedicated to the housing affordability crisis. I would support advocating for that as well. And
What if? Oh.
the recommendation number 16, the inpatient psychiatric care for minors is something we are obviously, playing a key role on as well. I'm glad that it's in the letter.
Okay, if it's okay, let's bring it back because we do have executive sessions today too.
Those were all the recommendations I really wanted us to hit on.
Great, thank you so much. Item number 11, courthouse expansion project update. Got the team here today. Corey. I got to say hi to Corey Loomis at the St. Charles Gala. In fact, he was there.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. So take it away.
Hello,
Yeah.
Commissioners. Lee Randall, Facilities Director, and we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves.
Eric Nielsen, Sheets County Facilities Capital Improvement Manager.
Wayne Powderly, Director of Project Management with the owner's rep.
Corey Loomis, Senior PM with Pence Contractors.
So today we'd like to provide an update on the courthouse project. We'll have some updated pictures to share. We'll talk about allowances within the budget, contingencies, cost controls ongoing through the end of the project related to risk log management and phasing and scheduling. And we'll provide a general update to the project. So with that introduction, I'll let Eric begin.
Okay, so we have a PowerPoint presentation that I'll walk you through. This is working. There it goes. Okay. Project overview. Okay, so just for anyone not familiar, I'll describe the project real quick. The project is to expand the courthouse off of the main courthouse on the south side of the existing building. It'll be 3 levels plus a basement at about 50,933 square feet. The project will increase the number of courtrooms by 2, plus add a hearing room in the existing courthouse. There will be expanded and consolidated court administration offices, improved security screening at the main public entrance, and improved in-custody holding and transport facilities. And here is a rendering. This will be the expansion as viewed along Bond Street. So the existing buildings on the left with the brick material, and then the expansions on the right. And the main public entry is that kind of big glazed area down on the street level along Bond. So for the update, we'll talk about work completed to date, ongoing and upcoming work, the construction schedule and where we're at, and then finally end with the project budget.
Is that today? The photo?
No,
Looked like
it was
that
last
today.
week. I always try to wait for a sunny day, but yeah. Oops. So yeah, as you can see, work's ongoing. The most notable thing is the tower crane that's on the site that's allowed Pence to move materials around the site, form work, so that they can start constructing the concrete cores. So first, these images are work completed along Bond Street. So the retaining walls for the parking garage were constructed and waterproofed, and the existing building was waterproofed. And then this view, the image on the left shows that the deep excavation that was done to build those retaining walls has now been filled in, which, so this will be the slab level of the main public entry. And then the benefit right now is that it relieves some congestion on site, just adds another laydown area for materials. Foundations many of them have been completed. They're still ongoing. So the image on the right is the foundation that'll be at the corner of Greenwood and Harriman at the parking garage. And then there's some images, or an image on the left that shows several pad footings for structural concrete columns. Also completed so structural concrete is kind of the main focus now. And so they've been completing pours on the concrete cores for the elevators and the stairs. So stair 1, pour 1 has been completed. You can see there. So they've stripped the formwork, and then you can see the formwork inside the stair core poking out. And right now they're putting up rebar for the second pour on stair 1. Stair 2, pour 1 has been completed. So the image on the right is the concrete pump truck on the day that they poured concrete into the formwork. And then the image on the left is after they've stripped the formwork. And so that'll be about half of the stair 2, and all these cores will go up to the roof level.
Oh, Eric, can I ask you a question? Can you remind me, how deep of a soils drill did we do before we started construction?
For like a geotech report.
Right, yes.
It's down to that old oil tank.
No, I mean, yeah, I just wondered, how deep did we do and how many of them did we do?
Yeah, borings are typically 15 feet on a
15 feet?
geotechnical report. Yeah, I believe most of our borings were.
Haven't you heard about the Wickiup Junction thing? Ew.
Different geology.
No, I'm just saying, yeah, 15 feet's not very deep. So anyway, okay, so 15 feet, how many of them?
I think we had five
or six.
Yeah, 5 or 6 borings across.
And they were all 15 feet. Okay, thanks. I just wanted to get it in my notes.
And I'll just add that on the project, the geotechnical firm, their engineers and geologists provide a recommendation related to the entire site. So they look at what they know about the existing geology, and then they recommend how deep to go, how many. They kind of plan out and design where those borings go related to the proposed footings in the size and depth of footings. So it's really an engineered boring plan that comes from the consultant.
And they're on site as excavation's happening, testing compaction before the foundations are poured on the soil. So let's see, elevator 2 foundations. So some pad footings have been poured, and then the image on the left, you can see that the formwork's in place for the foundation of the actual elevator core. And then the rebar cages are sticking up there too. And then finally, elevator 3, pour 1. This is the core that's starting to take place along Greenwood Avenue. So they've did pour 1. I believe they've stripped most of this formwork now and getting ready for the next pour. So with that, I'll turn it over to Corey to talk about some upcoming work.
Thanks, Eric. You know, one thing to note too is
You grab the mic a little.
yeah. How about now? A little better. One thing to note too, you know, it's a little unique seeing these stair cores come out of the ground and go full height. And one of the reasons we're doing that is as we were trying to find creative ways to pick up schedule, taking those cores actually full height saved about a month. So where we're tracking right now is about a month ahead of where we were originally projecting months ago. So if anybody asks, that seems unique to see these cores coming fully out of the ground. That was kind of the reasoning behind that. So but in the upcoming 4 to 6 weeks, you know, basically you're going to see a lot of similar trajectory of what you've seen in those photos. It's just we're going on to pours 2 and 3 for a lot of those cores. So stair 1, which is our west stair core, we'll be doing that second pour. Stair 2, similarly, which is the big stair core on the east, will also be our second pour. There in the center, which we call elevator 2, will be finally coming out of the ground with our first pour. Elevator 3, which is the one right along Greenwood, will be our second pour, and then continuing to finish up all of our foundations there in the basement, and finally getting underway with all of our underground plumbing and electrical. So feels slow at first, but this is helping us pick up time. This summer is going to be really fun to watch us come out of the ground. So it's going to cruise along. So big picture, just in terms of durations of structure and exteriors and interiors, you can see how we're progressing there. So structure, planning on end of summer, getting close to topping out. We'll have a little bit of overlap there as we start to get going on the building exterior. Of course, our goal, get in the dry before the weather starts to turn again. So getting our roof on is going to be very, very important. So then we'll be moving along as we get in the dry with all our building interiors, bringing us into spring of that following year. And similarly, getting going around the perimeter with all our site work, getting sidewalks in and getting the site all buttoned up. Wrapping up, as you note there, for final completion across the board, not just our expansion, but our interior renovation coming into August of 26.
So, Corey, you're saying then August 25, the roof should be on?
We'll be topping out with structure and starting on the exterior. So starting on the roof coming into end of summer, early fall, and looking to get in the dry as we get through that period. So we'll be working on those exteriors through fall and winter, working on siding and windows and that sort of thing.
Okay. Any additional questions before we talk about the budget?
So talking about the budget as requested, this is a monthly update for the budget with actual spend to date and balance to finish. So with the increase of the budget adjustment last month, we added that 2.9 million. So our total now is 46.8. And then there is other funds that have been added to the expansion project from OJD directly and the AJ Tucker. So you'll see there at the bottom of column 2, the construction budget is currently sitting at $47.4 million. Actual spent to date is right now at about just over 13 million. I will note though that the January invoices that came in won't be processed till the end of this week. This is current through Friday of last week. So as we continue to give you guys updates each month, just note that the invoices included in here will be from the previous month. If that makes sense. Also updated in here is the approved change orders for both Pence Contractors and LRS Architects. So everything is up to date there. And then included in those change orders, we've also, just to protect those contingency items, we've got some allowances. Right now, we're tracking weather protection, weather delays, snow removal, added costs for concrete pours, blanketing, add mixtures to concrete and whatnot. So those are allowances that we know need to be spent. We'll recalculate those once those scopes are finished, and we'll be able to see if there's savings that can go back towards contingency. Speaking of contingency, right now, with that added budget adjustment from last month, it has replenished the owner contingency. So we're sitting pretty good there at this point in the project to cover for owner contingency through the remaining of the project. And then also just to speak to some of the cost control measures that we have been doing and will continue to do. We meet weekly on any pending cost changes. Myself and Corey and Eric, we meet weekly on that to review any of those. We also have a running risk log, which basically is just a log for any type of items that we know of that could create either a cost or a schedule impact, that we discuss those on a weekly basis just to make sure that we don't lose sight of those and we minimize the risk and the effect of to the project. And yeah, any questions on that?
Well, again, I just want to thank you all for your continued support of the expansion project. We're currently at about 50% in terms of the overall schedule. And then in terms of spending, we're around just over 20 to 22% on the construction spending, and overall project spending is right around 27%. So the spending will catch up to the schedule as we move forward and as work is completed. But I do want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and we're available again for any additional questions.
I have a question. Oh, do you mind? So you said the January invoices won't be paid until next week?
They're getting processed this week.
This week. This is still February.
Correct.
So will the people that gave you those invoices be paid then next month? I mean, do they go out in the mail or do they go into their account? I mean, I'm just, I'm wondering.
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure if you get it by mail or by direct deposit, but those will be processed this week. So they're usually about 30 days from the time they submit. So the end of January invoices get paid this week. And then next month on this budget update, the February payments will be included. That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any
time is to allow for a full review of those invoices? So
right.
The architect reviews the invoice as it relates to amount of completed work. Wayne will review the invoice as well, related to both completed work, materials on hand, and other items in greater detail. Eric has the final overview, and then it comes to me for approval and then goes through the CFO and county administrator. So we kind of start with the architect, our consultant, having that primary review, then Wayne, then Eric, and then we slowly add that oversight as we go forward.
So that puts real kind of precise project completion status in place as the bills are getting paid. What about lead times or materials? Just interested. I don't, what's the world look like in that?
Yeah, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the materials have been procured already. But that is definitely one of those risk items that we review every week. There are some materials that are still going through the shop drawing process. We have to go through that first and get those shop drawings submittals approved. Once those are approved, then we can place the order. So as far as the tariff, concerns, we are definitely tracking that closely.
And I will highlight one concern related to tariffs and supplies. So as the project was bid out, the most competitive supplier for the cross-laminated timbers system for the main entry is a Canadian firm. And so those materials and the final manufactured products will be coming from Canada. So that is a concern that we were not able to mitigate in terms of time. Those products typically in the course of a project, and I'll let Corey expand on this, but in terms of ordering, typically you want to get through that structural concrete phase so that if there are any changes at that level due to some unforeseen condition, you're not ordering your wood timbers based on a plan that's not in place. And so it's very difficult at this stage in the project to order those timbers and those products early. So that is a concern that is on the risk log. The team's monitoring it and we'll continue to report back. Anything to expand on that, Corey?
Yeah, no, this is the type of thing that scope by scope, it's really important to have those conversations. If we just generically send a note out to everybody saying, do you have any concerns? It doesn't get us very far, but we've been having very meaningful dialogues with every one of our trades. Our steel subcontractor, for example, which is kind of the tariff we're all thinking about. We're hearing about 25% on steel. Specifically to chat with them, and they said, we saw this coming. We ordered all of our steel. It's in our yard. Then we said, great. Are you willing to store it at no cost to the project? We have plenty of space. Great. Fantastic. Check the box. So having those meaningful conversations across every
The
scope.
next level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bridge
is
in
really
here,
important.
yeah.
That the conversation with CLT, for example, they said, we hear you, but you need to be thinking about these things. And a great example is the CLT is right when you walk in. So having a well-coordinated design and process to make sure everything looks meaningful is really important in that space. We've literally gotten down to what's the approved light fixture? How can that be CNC routed in the factory? So those types of conversations we're having, they say we could order things, but you need to understand we've got to get everything perfect beforehand. So just having those conversations with each scope is super important.
And probably just to touch on the storage issue too, as we go through those analysis every week, we're going to analyze what the possible extra cost could be if we wait to order when we need it versus ordering now and paying for extra storage. So we're looking at that, doing the math. If it makes sense to get it here now and store it offsite, we'll do that. If it makes sense, or if it's not a huge extra cost, then we'll wait to order it. So we're looking at all that.
Thank you.
Further questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us today. Good to see you. Item 12, Department Performance Measure Update. We fit this in quarterly or so just to talk about the great things that are happening in the county, how we're tracking them, or how we're not meeting our metric, maybe too.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jen Patterson for the record, Strategic Initiatives Manager. Today, we're here to talk about fiscal year 25 Q2 quarter measures. Performance measures. And specifically, we're going to be talking about the county's goals and objectives of safe communities. And so we have 4 departments here to give updates on one or more selected measures. We're going to go just a little bit out of order. We have Judge Fadley here with us. So we're going to do Justice Court first, and then we'll do the rest in that order. So I'll go ahead and invite Judge Fadley and Crystal to come on up to give their performance measure update.
Thank you for joining us today.
Afternoon, pleasure to be here.
Nice sunny day. It's cruising around. Yeah, all of a sudden.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Crystal Cozine, Court Administrator for Justice Court.
So how would you like to handle this?
Oh, yeah, just to go ahead and kind of go through the whole process. So the objective, the performance measure, and then how it's rolling.
So the objective is to reduce crime and recidivism through prevention, intervention, supervision, and enforcement. And the measure is rate of collections on fines, 50% or above within 90 days of judgment. And we're currently exceeding that by a bunch, and we have for years. The 50% number is a legacy number. That was when it was when I first became the Justice of the Peace, or any of you were here. And so it's we'll be updating that for next year. But so that's where we're at. That means, you know, the amount assessed on day one, we've got 70 to 80% of that back by day 90.
So a stretch goal would be 80%.
75%.
Negotiating. Well, yeah. So, I mean, have you seen ups and downs in the last few years, I guess, along these lines?
Pretty consistent since COVID. COVID was, you know, it's an outlier.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't remember what it was before COVID, but that number's been consistent for, you know, since 22.
And then people are not able to come up with that. What does that look like? Goes to collections.
Well, yeah, we go to collections. Why don't you talk about our process before it gets to collections? What do we do?
We give them quite a bit of time, actually. So we give them 30 days to pay their fine. And then from that point, we give them another 60 days once a collection letter goes out. So our performance measure is 90 days after judgment, but it's another 90 days after that before it goes to collection. So it's relatively 6 months after judgment.
And we offer payments. If you make your payments, you know, you stay on the payment plan. If you don't, we accelerate the debt.
Yeah. Well, great. Any other thoughts or questions?
I do want to ask how how taking away authority to take away people's licenses affects these collection rates.
In terms of raw dollars, we're down about 25% since that went into effect. Are we still about at that, do you think? Or
Roughly still, yes.
and that's just how it is, you know.
Yeah, that's the law.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so you just play the hand you're dealt. And I've got a really terrific staff that is compassionate and listens to people. And we also have an approach when they come to court is that, you know, this is traffic court. It's not, you know, the Supreme Court, and anybody can get a traffic ticket. And I've had traffic tickets. And so if we can make them understand that, you know, they're not a criminal and to listen to them, then if they have some buy-in, they're more likely to not be as reluctant to actually pay their fines.
Great. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. All right, now we'll start from the top. So we have next up, we have 911 here. We have Chris Perry, Operations Manager, to talk on a couple different performance measures that fall under the Safe Communities.
Thank you for joining us, Chris.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Chris Perry, Operations Manager for Deschutes 911. I have two measures to report out to you. First one, its objective is under Safe Communities, as Jen mentioned, is to provide safe and secure communities through coordinated public safety and crisis management services. Our performance measure is to support and enhance where needed the call-taking triage processes for mental health crisis calls in partnership with the Community Crisis Response Team, or CCR team. The update on this performance measure spans a couple quarters, but certainly this fiscal. The CCRT team identified the need to start transitioning some of their calls that could be handled over the phone to the 988 program. So they approached us and we worked with 988 and the CCRT team to update our call taking triage protocols to start transferring all of the first party mental health crisis calls to 988 instead of just the suicidal ideation calls that we had been done previously. So that went into effect February 3rd. It's been going smoothly. CCRT continues to handle all the second and third party phone crisis calls as they had been. But we've so far transferred 16 first party mental health crisis calls since February 3rd of this month. So that is my update on that performance measure. Any questions?
So a true or false deliverable there, which is interesting, but that's good. You know, the fact that, yes, it is done. Yes, this is happening.
Yeah, we continue to stay in contact with them. We meet regularly, identify any ways that we can evolve. This was one significant way that we were able to take some of that load off of their team so they could focus more on in-community response, in-person response. I think that's more valuable to them, certainly to our community. So we're able to utilize the State 988 program to handle some of those crisis calls that potentially can be addressed just over the phone and not in person.
Great.
So Chris, do you know how many of those calls you get during a quarter?
Well, we're getting, I don't have the exact stats, but I thought of that this morning. We're still getting a couple hundred calls across the board for mental health crisis calls that we're diverting off law enforcement and fire, law enforcement specifically. Though we've only transferred 16 since February 3rd, so the last 2.5 weeks or so, the lion's share of the calls continue to be second and third party callers. Somebody calling on behalf of someone else or some sort of community response is needed that it's most appropriate for our behavioral health clinicians locally to handle directly. So I don't know the exact stats, but the first party callers are in the minority of the.
It's usually someone in their family or a friend trying to help.
That's my experience. I don't want to speak for behavioral health, but in just looking at call volume that we're receiving, those couple 250 a month, it's definitely the more second and third party, or it requires an in-person response. So it's not going to work for 988. Okay, I'll report on my second measure. It's obviously under safe communities as well. It's to collaborate with partners to prepare for and respond to emergencies, natural hazards, and disasters. The performance measure is to coordinate with 911 and DCSO, Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, excuse me, to increase the number of web-registered Deschutes Alert subscribers. I have a few updates for you. At the end of Q2, we were just short of 63,000 opted into the Deschutes Alert system. Our goal was 53, so we continue to surpass that. I think every time I give an update on this, I think that we're done. We've got all the people that want to opt in, and we continue to get more subscribers. I took a peek this morning, and we've got almost 1,000 north of that since Q2 ended. So we're still trucking along. But for what's going on right now with that program, we have 2 annual campaigns coming up. About 3% of our 67,000 opt-ins are folks that have identified as access and functional needs. They need additional help in evacuation scenarios. And it's about 2,000 people. So primarily the Sheriff's Office Emergency Management Team handles that effort, and they send a test message out, which is going to happen second week of March, to contact those folks and remind them to update their information because they're, of course, our most vulnerable population of that opt-in user to Deschutes Alerts. And for those that don't respond or update their account, they have a team of folks that call them directly and offer assistance in making sure their account's correct, accurate. So we can directly contact those folks in an evacuation. So that's one campaign going on. You're probably aware annually we send out a test message / reminder to all of our Deschutes Alerts opt-in. So the 63-some thousand now, that's planned for May 7th. I believe this is our 3rd year in a row. And that is a friendly reminder to make sure your account is up to date with impending fire season. If you have any questions or concerns, we stand up a small call center with 4 to 5 phones. Myself, the emergency management team, and many helpers from across the county to answer those folks that have additional questions. They get the text message, they think it's a scam, or they just forget their password, their account, or just have general questions. So a team of us make sure we're there all day. It's usually 3 to 4 hours, and we usually get 100 to 200 calls from citizens looking for more information. And that seems to, I think we'll see our opt-in user spike again in Q4 because of that message. I think we've seen that the last few years. where people are telling their friends and family, hey, remember, there's the Deschutes alert system. If you want to be notified in an emergency, whether it's law enforcement or fire or evacuation, jump on board. So
That's really appropriate. You have it right before Mother's Day, May 11th. So, yes.
a couple other,
Get your mother signed up for Mother's Day, right?
got her signed up. A couple other small points on that performance measure. 911 and emergency management continue to meet. I met with them yesterday. Looking at Deschutes alerts, we spend a couple hours each month just kind of diving in and making sure that things are right. So when it's time to do an evacuation, there's as little confusion or hiccups as possible. So we continue to do that. And then the state Deschutes alerts system is part of the Everbridge account that the state's purchased for all the counties across the state. And they have a account rep based out of the Valley, and that rep reaches out to each of the counties every year and offers a fine-tuning session once a year just to look at the account in general and make sure all of our evacuation templates and all of our settings are right. And we have that scheduled for the end of March and that we participate in every year. So it's a front burner thing for us, and we make sure the system is as good as it can be on an ongoing effort.
Great. Well, it's interesting to think that, yeah, some people think it's a scam, because what is this thing just showed up? Oh, I signed up for it a year ago, and this is the first time I've seen a message from it. So we do need to practice using it a little bit. And then the flip side to that is, and I've already heard people kind of get to this concept, well, they notified me about this fire, but it really wasn't that close to my house. So then they start to kind of write it off in their head and not pay attention to it. So we do need to really understand what it is as a tool for our community.
Fine line between over notifying and not notifying enough, make sure people are aware, but not being numb to too many notifications.
Mm-hmm.
Disregarded when it's an important time to definitely regard it.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Chris.
All right, next up, we have community justice, and I believe Tanner Work is joined us on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Tanner Work, Deputy Director of Community Justice Adult Division. The community performance measure that I'm reporting out on is under Safe Communities. And the objective is to reduce crime and recidivism through prevention, intervention, and supervision enforcement. The measure is adult POs ensure supervised adults have active and updated behavior change plans. So for Q2, we were at 71%. Our target is at 75%. And just to explain what a change plan is a plan of action that the client and or the PO will take to manage the risk needs of that client. The reason it's a goal is that our field historically operated in a compliance model, reacting to negative and positive behaviors. The client, the BCP essentially is what this change plan is to help assist with proactively removing barriers, building technical skills, and otherwise creating conditions where public safety, accountability, and rehabilitation are primed. Essentially, we're just 4 percentage points off. It's a hard target to hit with people's vacations and or time off or vacancies, and we did have some people at the academy during that quarter, so that's why I think we're a little bit low from that 75%. One thing to note, essentially, the Department of Corrections standard for this through an Oregon administrative rule is that these are touched once every 6 months. Our rule and this metric is every month, so we've increased that immensely to hit that target by OAR. Any questions?
Great. So, well, that's good to understand that 71% monthly is different than 100% every 6 months, probably.
Yes.
A lot different.
Yes.
Well, and getting buy-in on both sides of the equation there, saying, oh, yeah, I know this will be good for me. Okay, I'll sign a piece of paper that says I'm going to really do this. And then really, a little bit of feedback and, guidance about daily activities.
Tanner, in your experience, have you worked with any of the people that have left the Dare Ridge welding program? Have you ever, in your experience, I mean, you have like a dozen in the program, I believe, currently?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. I know the program was pitched to OACCD about probably 6 months ago or so, but I don't know specifically which person's on the caseload. This represents about 500 people a month, 550. So I'm not sure which ones would fall under. It's all and only high and medium risk individuals on supervision.
Well, these would be people that would have left the Deer Ridge. I was just
Yeah.
wondering if that skill set that they received at Deer Ridge as their last year was really making a big difference to their re-engagement into a family life, etc.
I can follow up with the POs to see if they have any.
Yeah.
Individuals
I just was
to see
wondering
how that's
because
going.
I've talked to them when I've been at Deer Ridge, and I always feel that it's really an amazing program. They can leave and have a family wage job. They've got the skills now.
Yeah, it's a great program. Great skill set too, especially in Central Oregon.
Yes, welding is needed everywhere.
Nick, yes, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to share last night at the Understanding Homelessness in Central Oregon at the West Side Church that was extraordinarily well attended. And Tanner, you may know what I'm going to be sharing, but there was one of your former clients that was really featured as somebody who was homeless, was on a client of parole and probation, and he really spoke. He told his very compelling story about his extraordinary relationship with his parole officer and how that really helped him change the course of his life. And now today he's in more permanent housing and a peer support specialist. He also talked about the support he received from our behavioral health team as well. But it was just a really moving story. He was featured. It was a great interview. We just focused on him, but the accolades, the great comments for parole and probation just couldn't have been stronger. And our director, D.V. Holcomb, was there as well. Again, very, very well attended and just a great story. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations on that. Anything else? Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Tanner.
Right. And last but certainly not least, we have the district attorney's office giving 2 updates. And with us, I think in person, is Kathleen, and then I believe Mary is online. So I'll turn it over to you both to introduce yourself and talk about your measures.
Thank you, Commissioners, for having us here today to talk about our performance measures. My name is Kathleen Mancoop. I'm a management analyst at the DA's office. And my colleague, Mary, is online today, and she'll be talking about our Veterans Intervention Strategy. And I will be talking about our Emerging Adult Program. So I will turn over our presentation to Mary. And we have a slide.
Here it is.
So the Veterans Intervention Strategy is a treatment program for justice-involved veterans. The program assists veterans with addressing mental health or substance use disorders that played a role in their criminal activity and provides improved justice outcomes. It offers community support, treatment, resources so veterans can take accountability for their actions and the issues that they need to address to become healthy and active citizens. So our goal is the same as Tanner's: safe communities, reducing crime and recidivism through prevention, intervention, supervision, and enforcement. So far in the program, we launched in 2020, had our first participant in 2021. We've had 28 enrolled individuals, and that does not include an additional individual who recently recidivated. He graduated from our program, recidivated, and came back into the program. That would make 29. I'm just not counting him twice. Of that, we've had 20 graduates. We have 6 currently enrolled. We've had 3 revoked, and we do have a queue currently of 9 additional people who are going through our eligibility process. So our performance measure is 20% or less, resulting in a sentence of incarceration. So that's the first number on the left, 4%. We've had of the 28 enrolled individuals incarcerated in prison. I included a couple other recidivism numbers just because they're interesting for the program. So we've had a 5% post-graduation recidivism rate, and that was that one individual who came back into our program. We think he'll find a lot of success. He has a severe TBI that causes a lot of issues in substance use. And that brings us to our final recidivism rate, which is the jail arrest recidivism rate is 21% for participants who are still in the program. And we understand that treatment and recovery is not always linear, so we like to work with our participants to get them back in line to recovery, which is also why we accepted that individual back into the VIS. And I've included the basic performance measures here. I have a lot of other data on the program. If you guys have any additional questions, please ask.
Thank you very much. It's good to see after a couple of years, how does it start to work out? Because something you start and then 6 months and a year later, you still don't have a whole lot of information other than people that have signed up for it. So this is great to see these numbers a couple of years later.
So you started it in 2020, is that what you said, Mary?
So it launched in November 2020. We got our first participant in 2021. I recently put out a 3-year report with a lot of data from 2021 through 2023. The data that you see reflected here is obviously through December 2024. Yeah. Do you guys have any other questions?
No, I just think it's excellent. The more we can do for our veterans, I think it's really incredibly important. And, love to mention our Veterans Village and how successful that has been. It's, I believe we've had 35 veterans that have been able to move on to permanent housing somewhere. So, yes, thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
And just like we were talking about parole and probation, my point is, there's kind of relationships here. It's seeing the same judge maybe a few times, having support people, building relationships, even though it's in this environment, it is, positive relationship with professional people with the intention of helping.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's really inspiring, I think, being a part of the program and seeing how they progress through the program. We have 2 different tracks, track 1, track 2, for different levels of offenses. Track 1 is a minimum of 12 months, track 2 is a minimum of 14 months, and you really see them grow and change and open up as they progress through the program. And, that's really great to see because these guys have been through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And Mary, this is primarily done in conjunction with Judge Miller.
Yep, Judge Miller. We are on Judge Miller's docket. And so we meet once a month with each group and we switch back and forth between Judge Miller in court and the vet center. So we also have a case manager at the vet center we work with who is the therapist, does mental health work with a lot of the people who are in our program. And we are not an official VTC because we don't have enough court staffing to become that at this point. That might be somewhere we move towards in the future, but we basically run the same way. The only difference is that we don't meet in court as often as traditional VTCs.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mary.
Thank you.
The program that I'm going to talk about is our emerging adult program. We have the same Safe Communities goal. And our performance measure for the EAP program is to maintain a 2-year recidivism rate for all enrolled emerging adult participants who are 18 to 25 years old of 25% or less. So this is a pre-charge restorative justice initiative for young adults in our community been cited by law enforcement. To date, we have 88 young adults who have been enrolled in the program. We've had 56 who have graduated, and we have a remaining 19 who are currently active in the program, which allows us to have an 11 individuals have been revoked from the program. And they may be revoked either because they've committed a new crime or because they failed to complete the program requirements. So we have 2 different elements of that. And we had 2 individuals who have voluntarily withdrawn. And so we still count them in our total numbers of people that have enrolled, but program is not a requirement. So we do allow people to step back if they decide that this is not a good fit, particularly since the program in many ways often has additional requirements that wouldn't happen in court. And so there's a lot more oversight and requirements upon these young adults for accountability. We have an 11% recidivism rate in the program at this point, and that includes people that have either revoked and committed a new crime or people who potentially who have graduated and have committed a crime afterwards. And so we're continuing to watch all of our program participants through that.
So Kathleen, are they drug tested?
No, they're not.
No drug testing?
Well, I say some individuals are, if they enter the program because of a drug crime, then a lot of times their accountability plan will require them to enroll in a drug treatment program. So it's very specific based upon the individual. So don't have a blanket, everybody in the program is drug tested. But if they come into the program and that is an issue, then that would be part of their accountability plan.
So can they do a program here then locally in Central Oregon for their drugs?
Well, and what if there was another floor in the great courthouse and a couple more courtrooms? So about a year and a half from now, you'll have some more elbow room over there.
Well,
Just the whole thing.
actually, we try to do, a lot of this is out in the community. So this is a community-based program. And so we actually run the circles in 2 different locations. Some of them are done at Community Circle,
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Central Oregon's Community Solutions. And the other ones are done over at the Lotus Building. And the circles are actually run by community members. We have 15 volunteers. And kind of going back to your comment about relationship building, our volunteers meet with the same young adult over the period of the 6 months. And that's a big part of the success of this program, because they have these individuals who care about them, who follow them, are following up, want to know that they're successful. And for some of our young participants, they don't have that family structure at home. And to have, in essence, when they start this, complete strangers supporting them, making sure that they meet and hold them accountable, is a big growth period for them. And to see that the community wants them to be successful is important.
Great.
Yes, a nice plug for Community Solutions.
Yes.
I think they do good work. So thank you so much for sharing that.
All set. Thank you for joining us.
And that wraps for me. Thank you.
All set. Okay. At this time, item number 13, deliberations for an application for commercial activity in conjunction with a farm use.
Just as a reminder that this is a land use item that I am used on. I'll be leaving for a little while. Come back for executive session.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much for joining us and putting the memos together, legal and the community development and the matrix. And this has all been publicly available this week, correct? This whole package. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Nathaniel Miller with the Deschutes County Planning Division.
And Stephanie Marshall, Senior Assistant Legal Counsel. Today, we have a bit of a curveball, which isn't a big deal. In fact, we've been working really hard kind of behind the scenes. And the applicant is requesting at this time to reopen the record to submit a modification of application. So that is a question for you both to discuss and decide whether you would like to allow that.
Okay, so yeah, as I say, first time I'm hearing about this. First question is, well, I mean, so this is everything's down on paper now. There's the matrix decision process, the reasons why, the position of recommendations, the whole thing. So yeah, is there any other? So we're being asked specifically, is it okay if we allow? Yeah, maybe explain that.
You're going to be looking to modify or just let them submit that?
Yeah, I think for the time being, what we're hoping is that the board will consider this request by the applicant, and then we would come back to the board with an update and a formal request to allow the opening of the record.
And I might add again, without further information that we're sharing, that this actually should help streamline the process. We're hoping.
Okay, well, so what's the official request then again? Just getting back to the basics. Now that I've just heard about it, now let's start at the beginning again.
Open the record.
Just reopen the record, current application.
Correct.
With this decision matrix and the items as listed.
Right.
So that's part of the record now.
That is correct. So with the record reopened, again, if the board so decides, the applicant will then submit a modification of application. They'll request that. They will pay the appropriate application fee. And the hope is that we can again get this before you in fairly short order. But this is a procedural request, and it's the only way that we're able to get this before you is to have the applicant submit an application for modification of application. It's redundant.
Yeah, so opening the record on this
Correct.
application, which is gonna allow a path to do a modification to the whole thing.
Yes.
Any thoughts? I was just learning about this as well.
No, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
As Nathan had to listen to my rant the other day about someone who had done a project in Deschutes County. And I know it's so hard for people to actually, small business to survive. I don't know if you were here earlier, listening to the veterinarians that are right, over on the back on Only and what they're dealing with. And, there's somebody in Redmond that has something and they've put thousands of dollars into it. And when they told me that they couldn't have events, I'm like, oh, please. Somehow you've got to be able to pay back those thousands of dollars. I don't think they just did their business for their own happiness. I mean, usually you want a financial return. So whatever, I'm more than happy to grant this request.
Well, I'd support that too. As I say, as you saw, I already digested the fact that the matrix is pretty clear about the recommendations, the kind of legality of the whole situation. And now this is a request again. I mean, is there any precedence in doing this? I mean, because this is getting to be quite the window of time.
Yes. And that
Or
is,
risks involved.
yeah.
Or-
There is. I mean, as long as the board hasn't commenced deliberations, the record can be reopened. And so that matches with what is allowed in the code. I do acknowledge that this is a somewhat, unique, long window of time that this has been pending. And again, it sounds like the board is going to allow that reopening of the record once we get the supplemental application in to modify the application, and that's reviewed. Staff will be preparing an amended staff report and amended decision matrix. And yes.
Do you think, Nathan, that'll be in like a month? If it'll probably maybe take longer.
So a modification of the application is its own process and we'll
Right.
need to process it in accordance with Title 22. This project is a priority for the planning division, so we'll be moving to get this back in front of you as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Was that official motion that we need to make for this application?
I think at this point, what we'd like to do, board, if it's okay, is that we would like to go ahead and prepare an order to be back in front of you here within a week's time for you to sign.
And
Okay.
I'd be supportive of that. too.
To make it that official.
Yep, that's fine.
Again, just from a procedural standpoint, there's one thing when a matter is appealed on the merits. It's another when it's appealed and it comes back to the board because of some procedural snafu. So, we want to ensure that this go forward on the soundest foundation.
Okay, well, there's support. Deliberations were not completed today with this request for opening the record.
Okay. So we'll come back, we'll coordinate with Brenda or Angie.
Angie, you'll coordinate, yeah.
Okay, great. And so we'll get back on the agenda as soon as possible.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
So now, other items, but let's get Commissioner Chang notified that, okay.
I let him know and I'm letting Eric and Whitney know as well. He's not.
So let's take a 5-minute break, just a stand-up break for me at least. Okay, so we are back from just a quick break. We have finished the agenda items of our published agenda. At this time, other items.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have two quick items, and I know Jen Patterson does too as well. The first question is, do we want to have a legislative meeting on Friday morning? As I know, you may be traveling or not able, given
Different time zone. Yeah.
the different time zone, given the NACO, National Association of Counties, legislative meetings in Washington, DC. So it's certainly up to you, and we're happy to proceed or to cancel it based on your availability.
Thoughts?
Well, I'll be on a plane during the regular time.
At that time, okay.
So I'll be missing it if that's.
Either way, okay.
Okay, and I'm available because I'll be in the Portland airport.
Oh.
I looked at that. I went, well, if everything goes well, yes.
Well, no, if you're going to be in an airport, let's not try to do that then.
No, I mean, I'm going to be sitting there.
You
I have like,
do it with
well, I don't know if there's
get
something
some
that,
good headphones to be able
no,
to
I have
hear?
my little, yeah, I have my little headset. Anyway, I didn't know.
Well, and I'll be there already because we're flying
Yeah.
tomorrow.
So
be
I don't know. Is there
right there.
something that we need to do?
9, 10, 11. It'll be
I
11.
mean, is there some legislation that's coming up that we need to hear about?
Well, the key is that is the other, that is one of the topics we have today, is we could tackle that today and then not tackle it Friday morning, given that there's a letter that I've now delayed enough so that Jen can
Yep,
summarize
I'm
it.
here, Jen Patterson, Strategic Initiatives Manager. So there are several new bills that have popped up this week that we have as priority 1 or 2, and I apologize, I do not have those in front of me. I could pull the report real quick if we need to. I don't believe that any of them are time sensitive on that. If they are, I'll double check in with Doug again. But we were on an email chain with Nick right before this meeting that Nick was going to broach whether or not we're going to have a meeting on Friday. So he hasn't responded back that we need to. So the only time sensitive one I have is a letter of support that you've already taken a priority on. It's a priority 1 support for the ban on flavored inhalant delivery system products and flavored tobacco products in Oregon. So Tom Kuhn has requested a letter of support, and that public hearing is on March 4th. So either way, I'm here to talk to you about that since you won't be here to sign and or potentially talk about it on Friday.
Okay.
Correct myself, I'll be in the Portland airport as well at 8 a.m.
But and as I say, I'll be in a different time zone already because I'm going to fly tomorrow. And then, but 11 o'clock in the morning is going to be probably the most awkward time to have a meeting. So
You
I'd
can
rather-
go to Tate to the coffee shop. You'll be
Well, no.
fine. It's,
I'll want to be doing something other than, I mean, it's kind of mid-morning over there. That's what I'm
well,
referring to.
you could get up really early and go
And,
sightseeing.
yeah, my wife is going with me. So as I say, that's
Yeah.
a little bit of
Well-
opportunity because I'll register for the conference, but
Well, we can discuss that one now. And I did talk to the behavioral health chair and vice chair yesterday about that specific bill, saying how much I would appreciate if that bill could get through Salem this year. It's been dragging around out there and yeah.
And I was just looking at one bill real quick that got brought to attention by Lee in finance. I'm just checking to see if there is any time sensitive thing. The hearing was already this week and yeah, there's nothing upcoming. So waiting a week on that is fine as well.
so yeah, route letters for signature. And then if we need to just acknowledge it after the fact, if something else comes up.
Okay. Are you, so
No meeting Friday.
I do have the letter. Oh, sorry. I have it for
Oh, you do have, okay, with you.
out of order here. I do have the letter right here. If you're interested in signing it.
Great.
And
Thank
that's
you.
the flavored tobacco one?
Mhm.
Yeah, I won't be signing it. As I say, it's just, yeah, there you go. You got it.
So if Commissioner Derek or Chang are interested, I have that version as well.
Perfect. That's exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want us to sign one of these?
Just
Are
that
they
last
good?
one I handed you because it's.
I know.
I only have one. Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Please. I'll let you read
Well, yeah, go ahead and read it. You.
And this letter's from Tom.
That's correct. Yep.
Thanks. Thank you, Tom.
I think he was planning on joining the meeting on Friday, but I just emailed him back and said, I'll just bring it before you guys today,
Okay,
considering the timeframes.
great. Thank you. This is, I think, let's hope we have life to this one.
So do we need to make a motion of some kind or just sign?
I think we typically do.
Normally we do a motion and so
I move we sign support for Senate Bill 702, the ban on flavored inhalant delivery system products and flavored tobacco products in Oregon.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang, Commissioner Dare, sorry, you can,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang. And I'll vote no.
Copy in case you want to see
Thank you.
what the letter says.
So Chair, just to confirm, I heard the Chair say that there will not be a legislative meeting Friday morning. The next question that we had was, are the meeting time for the meeting next Wednesday, March 5th, when you return? We understand that at least one of you would be returning very late and others on Tuesday. So we can start at 9, we can start at 10, we can start at 1. The agenda at this point does not look overwhelming by any means, but certainly your call, just so we can plan accordingly. Great. Yeah.
1 o'clock in the afternoon would be good.
If that works, that'd be great.
Yeah, so to say, well, yeah, see if I didn't schedule anything, but we'll see.
I have a hold for a Fair and Expo Master Plan.
Oh, yeah,
meeting, but I'm not sure.
that's you and I too, I think.
Okay, so I'm not sure. That's at 3 o'clock.
Yeah,
Location is
this
to
is
be
the 5th
determined,
of
so.
March. Yeah, 3 o'clock.
The respective board representatives to the Ready Board and the EDCO board are invited to the Ready EDCO Political Advocacy Committee at 3.
And I already have something at 3 and I haven't heard about that either.
We aim for 10 maybe then?
Sure, 10.
10 o'clock.
I don't make it. Well,
Right.
I
No,
mean,
so you get to sleep
like,
the night before. You're saying.
huh?
You get
Like,
to-
yes, like midnight.
And then Chair, we have one more item.
Just for one quick thing, I just wanted to touch base with you guys on the format for the bill tracker report. I updated the format a little bit last week, I think, with comments from Commissioner Chang about having value knowing which of our local representatives were either a bill sponsor or on the current committee. So just wanted to check in and see if that report worked and provided the information you were looking for. If you want to keep that report the same like that every week, or just for the week of the legislatures and have the regular report. Very small housekeeping thing, but just I'd check in with you to make sure it's getting the needs met there and see if you wanted to keep it that way.
What I would love is, I don't want to see that dark blue. And
Blue's gone, I promise.
please.
It
Try to print it in
shows,
black and white.
it shows up as like turquoise online. And then when I went to go print it, I'm like, I can't, and I had Megan do a little bit with the ink, but anyways.
I know, I sent you text messages. I sent you all kinds of, I can't see it.
But it's good to understand the committees and who might be on that committee, as long as it's not too much cross-referencing.
No, a little bit of cross-referencing work on the current committees, but if you want me to keep it where I manually put in their names. So if you
Yeah,
want me to
but
keep it that
You only
way-
do that once though, right?
Yeah, if you just do that during those meetings where we're,
where the legislatures are on there. Okay.
I think that's fine.
That's fine.
But otherwise I'll keep those same columns on and highlight it a different color that's visible. So you at least know when we have a local representative, either a sponsor or committee
Yep.
member. Okay, great. That's all I had.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anything other, Commissioner Adair?
I did meet with the new chair and vice chair of behavioral health yesterday. They were wanting my feedback. And so I was talking about the 16-bed
Behavioral
rule.
Health Advisory Committee.
Yes, that you're now on. So, but we just had a really good meeting on what they need to do and what they were really talking about.
So I'm on that committee?
Yes, I switched
Yeah,
off.
but I
of
just
it.
don't have any connections to it. I don't know. I haven't been
Yes.
notified or anything. or
We
anything.
did this in January when we changed.
Yeah, no, but I don't know. I haven't chased it, so nobody sent
Yeah.
me anything. So
Put it on your calendar.
yeah.
Oh, well, that was.
That's all I'm saying. I don't have any
It wasn't,
starting point, I guess, is the,
Well-
we'll look for it. That's fine. Good point.
yes, it's like the third Friday of the month at noon with Captain Schultz. Yeah, can you make sure, Angie, that gets flipped? And the same with Fire Free, because I did go to the meeting this last week because I
You're
had,
doing a great job.
no, I've been doing it and I gave them all the information about fire code number 100, but I thought, it's always good to freshen things up. So anyway, what I was hearing from the new chair is that there's an incredible problem in the schools with kids that are being sent to the schools, the public schools. The public school has to take the kids, and yet when they are living somewhere in a arranged living situation, the kids are like in padded walls. I mean, these are children with serious mental issues, and the problem is not getting better. So some of the schools are really at wit's end on what to do. So that's something they'll be bringing up. Maybe.
Complicated behavioral health issues.
Complicated, incredibly complicated, and it's yeah.
Okay. Kim, you have one.
Yes, just real quick. We received notification of a request submitted by another county to the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, and they recently issued an opinion relating to public officials and the potential conflict of interest relating to the wildfire hazard maps. And so in light of that opinion, I think it's somewhat of a stretch. And I think as outlined in the opinion, I've given everybody a copy. But in light of that opinion, I think it's definitely a stretch to call it a potential conflict of interest, but out of an abundance of caution, given the vote that was taken on Monday, I think that there's two actions that should be taken today by both Commissioner Adair and Commissioner DeBonne. One, just to disclose whether or not you have property that's both in a high hazard zone and the wildland urban interface. And then if you do, whether that affected your vote on Monday, February 24th, as it relates to the directing staff to file the appeal on behalf of the citizens of Deschutes County.
Okay, so I can be the first to go. Yes, I do live in a wildland high-risk zone and urban interface. And did it affect my vote? No, it did not affect my vote. There are actually, 21,252 other property owners in Deschutes County that are in that same designation. I really, I know the insurance companies, they have their own maps, they have their own power, but the designations in the maps have been really unfair.
So in support of the concept of potential conflict of interest, I live on a rural property that is in the wildland urban interface and high wildfire hazard relative to the risk maps as presented. And this is guidance from the Ethics Commission, Oregon's Government Ethics Commission, which is Susan Myers, Executive Director. And the paragraph substantive statement is, because there is no certainty that a financial detriment associated with ODF's fire risk designation will affect your personal homeowner's insurance rate or reduce your home's value, you would be met with a potential conflict of interest rather than actual. But it just another reference to the fact that this is just open and undefined. So yeah, potential conflict of interest acknowledged.
And then secondly, whether that affected your vote
Oh, yeah.
Monday, February 23rd.
Okay, yeah, well, thank you very much. So as I say, I mean, the information in my head is the fact that Deschutes County proper has done our wildfire risk assessment, and it was concluded that we're probably high risk in a lot of areas, or you could call it the whole county. So it's counterintuitive, as to say, I'm not specifically advocating for properties to be low. Maybe it's more properties to be high, especially in the southern Deschutes County where I live. So, I mean, I'm fully informed with experience. So, I mean, potential conflict of interest didn't affect my decision-making process? Is that
Did it affect your vote?
Whether or not it that potential conflict of interest.
Oh, that potential conflict of interest. Okay, yeah. So referring to that specific potential conflict of interest, I would say it did not affect my vote. Thank you.
And that is all for me.
Thank you. At noon today, I did send the appeal form from my email address to the email address for ODF, referring to the 21,528 properties. We're working on a press release. If we'll all be able to see it, just kind of make sure the words that, if we want to be attributed to a quote, or if words in the press release make sense to what we're thinking. And then one other item, totally different topic. I was able to join a room of high school seniors at the Redmond High School this morning. It was the Writing 122 class research project presented. I was in there with the principal and the classroom teacher, and we heard two different presentations by students, and it was really a good opportunity. One was a DEI presentation about the concept of how do we learn about it and promote DEI. So we had a good discussion because she knew who I was. And then also Mason, so that was Josie, and then Mason did policy for funding the Park and Rec new pool facility that is going in.
The operations.
Yep. But that was a great event this morning.
Or anything about DEIA?
We had a good discussion, and that's what I've been doing with a lot of people recently. So there looks like there's not a lot of common ground because it's hard to even come up with words that people are saying and the other person's receiving. So, yeah, well, but I mean, we had a good discussion, but yeah, it's, yeah.
So I'll report back that the Regional Housing Council and the Coordinated Homeless Response Office met on Monday. So I was at those meetings. The Regional Housing Council is almost ready to start weighing in on legislation. Some people are tracking stuff through that group and weighing in on an individual basis, but there's not really a like an integrated effort yet. And the major decision that was made at the Coordinated Homeless Response Office was to make a $80,000 allocation to the Stepping Stone shelter. Basically, they have heating and cooling units in those in those rooms that weren't designed for essentially heavy institutional use. So they're having to upgrade the equipment there. So that they made a request to the Coordinated Homeless Response Office. That's the key things.
Great.
From those meetings.
Anything else for this meeting? So we do have an executive session today.
Oh, I did want to add
please.
that Oasis Village last week had actually 4 empty spots plus an additional 2 people that had just left, I think, that week. So they were down to, let's say, 14 people living there. Really surprised to hear that. And I spoke with Chuck Hemingway, and he said some Central Oregon villages is totally full. So, makes me a bit nervous when I think that Oasis Village has, well, at least had 4 spots. And I'm going, why would they have 4 spots empty at this time with our weather being so varied?
Housing opportunities somewhere, maybe.
Yes.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
See you then. Thank you.
The Deschutes County Board of Commissioners will now convene an executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660. The specific authorization for this executive session is ORS 192.660 subsection 2D and E, which allows the board to meet in order to discuss labor negotiations and real property negotiations. Designated staff and the media are allowed to remain during the executive session. However, the media may only report that the board met in executive session and the identified basis for meeting an executive session. Recording devices are not permitted. No final decisions will be made, and at the conclusion, we will open the doors and invite the public back to the meeting.
Okay, we're in executive session. Microphones are going off. We are back from executive sessions. Please proceed as discussed. And is there anything else for this board meeting?
One
No.
other item that I
Sure.
forgot to mention was this morning was the EDCO strategic planning session, or the kickoff of that process. So I'm glad to be able to participate in that, and now to hand off the EDCO representation.
And that's to work towards the 3-year strategic plan or?
So they'll take about 3 months. They've contracted with Echo Northwest
Mhm.
or to do that process, and we'll see what comes out of it.
Great.
Oh, I did forget too. I heard from Cappy, a sister's senior group is closing down. There was a meeting this morning at 10, but I already had a prior commitment, so I couldn't go to it. Anyway, she's supposed to let me know what's happening, but it's like a really big deal because there are a lot of people that use that facility.
Which
So-
senior?
I think it's the lodge. So I haven't heard from her.
Follow up on that.
Yeah, I'll call her and see what she says.
Okay. Anything else? In none, meeting adjourned.